filming from GenCon 2014. I'm here with Roberto from Armies Games, and he has kindly agreed to tell us a little bit about their new release, which is Battle of the Five Armies, clearly inspired from The Hobbit, the movie, the book, a little bit of both, the book mainly, okay. Now, thank you, Roberto. What can you tell us about this game? How do we play it and what's good about it?
Okay, so the game is a War of the Ring line game, so its core mechanics are based on the mechanics of War of the Ring. Similarly to War of the Ring, the game has an action dice system as its main engine. So we have 3 people players action dice and the shadow player action dice. And also another part of the game engine is made up of event cards. We have story cards for the shadow, story cards for the 3 people, and generic event cards which are used by both players. So the main engine of the game essentially is you roll action dice. The action dice gives you different results that allow you to do different type of actions like moving your troops, mastering new troops, moving your characters, and you enhance your action through the play of the story cards or the event cards. The event cards, just like events in War of the Ring, are dual use, so they can be either used as an action or they can be used as a combat effect to enhance your abilities in combat.
So this is both a dice-driven and card-driven game.
Exactly. So anybody who's familiar with War of the Ring will recognize similarities in the system. There are differences in the systems. So, first of all, this system is much more character-based than War of the Ring is. Essentially, all special characters which are featured in the battle, like Bard, Dane, Thranduil, Gandalf, they all have their own special abilities. These characters are in the game since the beginning, but we also have additional characters who enter the game through another mechanic which is unique to this game, which is the Fate Track.
The Fate Track. The
Fate Track is essentially sort of a timer, but is a non-deterministic timer, because the speed at which the track advances is not set like one step every turn, but depends on the draw of fate tiles. Fate tiles essentially will get the fate to draw, to go forward 1 to 3 steps every turn. Normally.
You don't know how fast the fate track is going to move.
Exactly, but it's not purely random, because this is also linked to the characters. The 3 people player at the beginning of the turn has the choice of how many characters he wants to activate with their general abilities. And so essentially places a token on the characters that he wants to activate. The more generals he activates, the stronger he is in this turn, but the more fate tiles the shadow player can draw, and so essentially he has the choice of redrawing tiles as many times as the number of generals that has been activated, so he can improve his draw. So at the beginning of the turn, essentially you will draw cards, you will decide how many generals you activate, then you draw fate tiles and you determine the advancement of the fate track. When characters are reached by the fate token, then that character is activated and enters the game, can be played into the game. This is of course very important, because all the most powerful characters in the battle, Thorin, the Lord of the Eagles with the Eagles, and in the end Bjorn, will arrive on the field of battle only when fate dictates that too. And of course, for the 3 people player, it's critical to get these characters in the game, because otherwise he cannot stand against the massive number of shadow troops without this.
So early on, the free people should try to call in for reinforcements, or call in from help, and try to survive until they get enough help to push back.
Essentially, at the beginning, he's more like skirmishing, trying to resist, try to set point of resistance at the critical point, because the shadow player will amass his troops here, and then they will storm through the valley, through the forts, or they can come this way and climb on the spurs of the mountain. At the same time, the goblins will gather. One of the action dice result, the eye die, essentially is related to the goblins on the mountains, and when an eye result is rolled, then you add additional goblins, and once you have a full army of goblins here or here, 5 of each, then you will remove the mountain pass token, and the goblin can now advance onto the board. So you are, again, this is a partly deterministic system because it's driven by the action dice system, but you cannot be sure exactly when the goblins will come through the mountain. So this is the combination of these elements, the unpredictability of when characters arrive, the unpredictability of when the goblins arrive, but also the fact that you have control over these random elements make the game very interesting and variable, even if it's a single scenario. You're always playing the same battle, but can play in a lot of different ways. In some battles, the goblin will help you win the battle, while in other battles they cannot even show up.
Okay, oh, I see. Okay.
One last thing which is worth mentioning to have an overview of the game is Bolg. Bolg is probably the most powerful character in the game, and he's the only character available for the shadow player. He's very important for the shadow player because essentially he's a juggernaut. So Bolg together with his bodyguard is almost unstoppable, except by Bjorn probably, which is the only one capable of taking him head to head. But he's also a critical element because if Bolg is killed, the shadow army will scatter and rout. So for the shadow player, it's important to have Bolg to spearhead the battle, but he must also be careful because he cannot afford to lose him. And Thorin, just like in the book, start inside the front gate, and again, when he comes into the game, depending on the situation, he may decide to just try to resist and stay there, or can try to make a sortie, like in the books. It can be very effective, also because there is another mechanic which is linked to fate, which are the fate cards. Fate cards are cards which are drawn when certain fate tokens with the fate symbol are drawn. And when you draw these cards, essentially you are boosting the capabilities of your special characters. So you see there are 9 cards, 3 of them are linked to Bjorn, 3 of them are linked to Thorin, and 3 of them are linked to the Lord of the Eagles. So in a game, it may happen that, say, you draw all 3 cards for Thorin, then Thorin will become a giant. It will be almost impossible to bring down, and so in this case, it might be well worth trying a sortie with him. In another game where he's not so boosted up, then he may be wiser to try to keep resist the front gate. Same for Bjorn. Bjorn is very strong anyway, but if the fate cards, which gives extra strength to Bjorn, are also drawn, it becomes force of nature.
Sounds great. Thank you, Roberto, for telling us about your new release. Again, this is Battle of the 5 Armies, published by Armies and released at Gen Con 2014. Thank you again, Roberto.
Thank you.